Nazi pointed to the rock and said, "Would you look at that?" And Laughing Hyena said, "Yeah, what a strange moss-covered rock." Laughing Hyena fell asleep for a whole hour. Now, while he was asleep, a Nazi ran to his house. They took all of his food. They brought it back to his house and he hid it all away. And he said, "I'm going to have a party with all my spider friends to get down and boogie, but I need more food." But, wait a minute. Stop everything, freeze the action, and go back a little bit. Back into the jungle when Nazi and Laughing Hyena were walking along together, admiring all the trees and all the flowers and tasting some of the fresh fruit. And you know what? While that was going on, someone was watching them. And that someone was Little Deer. Little Deer was taking a walk in the jungle too. And she saw a Nazi walking along with Laughing Hyena, and then she saw a Nazi come to the rock and point to it, and she saw Laughing Hyena fall sound asleep. And she said, "I know a Nazi. He's up to no good. I'm gonna follow him." And sure enough, she saw a Nazi run to Laughing Hyena's house and take all of his food. So, she decided she was going to trick a Nazi right back. So the next day, Little Deer had a barbecue on her front porch. She was barbecuing all different kinds of fresh fruit like mangoes and papayas and bananas and pineapples, all different kinds of fresh fruit. And the smell of the barbecue filled the air, carried on the wind right over to a Nazi. Smelled it and said, "Ooh, where's all that good food being cooked? I gotta find out." And he followed the smell until he got right to the front porch of Little Deer's house. There was Little Deer. Anansi said, "Hello, Little Deer." Little Deer said, "Hello, Anansi." Anansi said, "Little Deer, it's such a beautiful day. The sky is so blue. The sun is out. I thought maybe you'd like to take a nice walk in the jungle with me." Little Deer said, "Well, Anansi, I don't mind if I do. Let's go." So they took a walk in the jungle together. And they admired all the trees and all the flowers and tasted some of the fresh fruit. Oh, that's good. And then they came to the rock with all the moss on it. Red moss, blue moss, purple moss, green moss, black moss. The Nazi pointed to that rock and said, "Would you look at that?" Little Deer, who knew what was going on, said, "Oh, my, yes, Nazi, look at that big, beautiful flower growing over there." Little Deer went up to the flower and sniffed it. Nazi said, "No, no, no, not the flower. Look at that, that. Little Deer said, "Oh, yes, look at that unusual tree growing over there. Isn't it beautiful?" And ran right over to the tree. And Nazi said, "No, no, no, not the tree. Look at that, look at that." And Little Deer said, "You mean that snake that's going right down there?" And Nazi said, "No, not the snake, not the snake, not the tree, not the flower. I want you to look at that." Little Deer said, "What do you want me to look at?" "I want you to say what that is." Little Deer said, "What that is?" And I said, "No, I don't want you to say what that is. I want you to say what that is." And Little Deer said, "What that is?" And I said, no, you don't understand. I don't want you to say what that is. I want you to say what that is that I'm pointing at." And Little Deer said, "What that is that I'm pointing at." And I said, no, the rock, what is it? What is it? And Little Deer said, "I don't know." And I said, "You don't understand. You're supposed to say, what a strange moss-covered rock." And a Nazi fell asleep for a whole hour, and Little Deer ran to Laughing Hyena's house and knocked on the door and said, "Laughing Hyena, a Nazi stole all your food." And then she ran to Hippopotamus's house. She knocked on a lily pad. She said, "Hippopotamus, Anansi stole all your food. Come over to his house and take it all back." So they went over. They got all their food back. They brought it back home. And an hour later, Anansi woke up. And he looked around. And he said, "Hey, wait a minute. What's going on here? I was taking a nice walk in the jungle, admiring all the trees and all the flowers and tasting some of the fresh fruit when, someone figured out my trick. And I've been tricked back. Oh well. I'll have to come up with another trick tomorrow, huh?" Yeah, and that's the story of Anansi and the moss and the rock. Up here to help us one at a time now. And this is a story about a man named Joseph who was trying to fall asleep one night. And he had his head down on the pillow. He was trying to fall asleep, but he couldn't fall asleep because we're not going to use the mask. Instead, we're going to use you. This time, what he heard was, who can be, let me see, do we have any volunteers? What he heard was the sound of the dripping faucet. Okay, so maybe a dripping faucet? Drip, 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 drip. And then he heard the sound of anybody, do I have another volunteer? He heard the sound of the ticking clock. Can you do a clock ticking on the wall? Okay, so he heard the sound of the dripping faucet and the ticking clock, and he tried to fall asleep, but he couldn't fall asleep, and he got up and he said, "I can't fall asleep." Now everybody help me on this one. There's too much noise. Okay, so when I say there's, everybody says too much noise. So he got up out of bed and he said, "I can't fall asleep. There's too much noise. I'm gonna go visit my friend Mary. She's a college graduate, she's very smart. Maybe she has a good idea for something that I can do to help me fall asleep. I'll go down there." So he went down to Mary's house and he knocked on the door.
Yes!
"It's me, your friend Joseph. Could you come out?"
Oh, yes, of course. What seems to be the problem?
"Well, Mary, I keep trying to fall asleep, but I keep hearing the sound of the faucet dripping.
Oh, that can
And
be
I hear the sound of the clock ticking on the wall.
Oh, that can be annoying.
And I can't fall asleep because there's too much noise. Can you help me out? Do you have any good ideas, any secret remedies or something?"
Of course, certainly.
Great.
You have cows.
Well, I live on a farm, yeah, so I do have cows.
Oh,
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew he was a farmer. You need to take a cow,
Yeah.
bring it into your house,
Yeah.
then bring it into your bedroom,
Yeah.
and then you'll fall asleep like a baby.
Oh, I think this is kind of a crazy idea. You sure this is going to work?
I'm sure. I think
You want me to go get the
it.
cows when my boss brings them into the house? Okay, all right. So Joseph went home and he got his cow. Come on up. He brought him into the house and he climbed into bed. Now can we hear the cow? Where's the cow coming? Ooh. So Joseph got into bed and he pulled the covers over himself. But what did he hear? And then he heard drip, drip, drip. And then he heard. And he tried to fall asleep, but he couldn't fall asleep, and he got up and he said, "I can't fall asleep. There's